Tool bags are great. They're good for jobs on the go or to keep all the tools for a particular type of job, like electrical, all in the one place, ready to just go. But the downside is, if you have to find something inside a bag like this, well, you have to pretty much empty the bag to find what you're looking for. I want to try and solve that issue. So after taking a few quick measurements, went to the local metal supplies, cut some pieces, and started bending for safety edges. And if you're wondering how I managed to get these so uniform so quickly, well, because I made this little shim just slightly thicker than the metal I'm using and clamped that in the vise at the height I needed, then it would always go back to that same point. The problem with using a vise is, well, that only bends so far, but by using two pieces of metal already folded at a 90-degree angle, first one being my straight edge, the second one just a piece of angle, I could clamp the pieces between these two, then I could bend it up the full 180 degrees. And then it was back to the vise to flatten it right down to make it nice and clean. But folding this piece, that's going to be a bit more difficult because longer means more clamping force needed and more folding force needed. So after cutting off a piece that I'll end up using as a base, well, now I've got a better chance, but still not the best chance. And after trying many different methods, I ended up just folding it in the vise again, and then clamping it down here to my straight edge again, and lightly hammering it over. I'd stress lightly hammering, because if you hammer it too much, well, you end up with this. And don't try and fold it all in one pass, that's not going to happen. If you have to take 5 passes to get it right down, well, take 5 passes. There's no problem with that. You end up with a cleaner result in about the same amount of time. Then after I'd folded the first edge, I'd turn the straight edge around just to clean up and square up that second edge, because that's not going to be folded, that's going to stay square in the bottom of the bag. And then just flipped around again into the vise and clamped it down just to make that clean edge. Then after bending the flanges on the ends of each of these small pieces, drilled 2 holes in one piece, and now I'm lining them up so I can drill the holes in the other piece in exactly the same spot. Then after doing the same to the second pair, I then transferred those same marks onto the centerpiece. And now all the centerpieces are ready to be all joined together. But why do I have 6 of these? And the way I'm going to connect everything together is just with pot threads. Using this fantastic tool. This is a riveting device that attaches to a drill and just works. And it's great. There's no effort, no messing around, just point and shoot, off you go. And this is something I always do when using multiple rivets in the same piece. Much like when you're bolting something down, you never tighten one down first because you'll end up having trouble getting the rest in. I pull one down just a little bit, then I can align the second one, then I can pull them both down and I know everything's good right. Except for for the slight misalignment of the holes. So that's the inner section all together, all done. And then this happened. So I had to take it all apart again, straighten out the outer flanges, remark and rebend all 4 side pieces, and then put it all back together. That's better. And now I start on the surround piece with the folded lip down facing in. Clamp it to the main frame. And then I have this piece of 1.5 inch tube, and using the extra piece, line it up to the outside edge of the frame, clamp it in place, and then bend it around. This is an example of great camel work. It's alright, I'll fix that in a minute, but basically I'm just repeating the same process on the second corner, using that extra piece to line up the tube, clamp it in place and roll it around. And at the same time I'm rolling out the bottom edge, the bottom lip, so that it will roll around the tube. There we go. Now you can actually see what's going on. As you can see, I've bent the second corner, setting up to bend the third corner, clamping the surround in place around the frame, making sure it's in the right position, squared up. And simply bend it around. And as you can see, the bottom edge there is turning out. There's a great view of the corners. Once I get that bottom lip out, I can bend it around the tube so it's in the right place. And here comes the final bend. And then once the final bend's finished, set it all up, mark it, and cut off the excess. But now we have to do something with this bottom edge. This is called a puckering or tucking tool, and it's used to shrink edges like this in this fashion. First, you use the tool to manipulate the metal over itself, and then we hammer that back down to make it flat. You're not technically shrinking the metal, you're just overlapping it. But it does the job. And now I have a piece of slightly smaller solid round bar, which I'm going to use pretty much as a dolly to hammer down these edges. But notice as I hammer down these little puckers, the angle opens itself back up again. So I've got to keep going over with the puckering tool and keep going, folding, hammering it down until once I've hammered it all down, it is the right shape. And if you want to see more in-depth metal shaping like this, head on over to Make It Custom. Carl Fisher, he does some great work and shows some great techniques while he's doing it. And no, it doesn't look the prettiest, but it's going to be in the bottom of the bag. No one is ever going to see it, so that's 100% good enough. Now to cut the base plate to size, invert the surround, mark on the inside, and then just trim away the excess. Next I assembled the whole structure into the bag, well, to make sure it would fit and then would come out once everything's fastened together. And obviously then go back into the bag. And after fiddling around trying to get the rivet into this top hole for way too long, I gave up, put one in the bottom, that way everything was held together in the right place, and I could just get a drill in there and just clearance it all, just to make sure I could get a rivet into the top. Then once I had that piece set in place firmly, I could go around and drill and rivet all the pieces into place. So after all that, we went from this to this. I know it may still look a bit cluttered, but it's an organised clutter. Everything's standing up, and everything's in a separate compartment, so I can easily reach for that compartment for what I need. I may still have to dig through a little bit, but nowhere near as bad as it was. I'd call this a success.